Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Hope you all are doing great. I'm Yasmin Taj, editor, ETHR World International, and head branded content at the Economic Times. And I welcome you all to yet another interesting LinkedIn Live discussion on the topic Humanizing Work for a Sustainable Future, CHROs Speak. Amongst all the changes and challenges that organizations have grappled with, one thing that has become a top priority was the intent of keeping the human aspect of work alive. As we reassess and remodel our organizations for yet another year, how we make work more human is going to be a key differentiator. The year 2023 and beyond is going to be all about humanizing work. To decode the future of work and understand what it will take to humanizing work for a more sustainable future, this LinkedIn Live session brought to you by the Economic Times HR World Southeast Asia is a precursor to the Future Forward Malaysia chapter, a one of its kind conference for business and HR leaders, which is themed around humanizing work for a sustainable future. The conference will unveil how CHROs and business leaders from top organizations from Malaysia are reimagining themselves for the next level of transformation. And we are super excited to have leading CHROs today from the region joining us, who will not only share their mantras for a sustainable future of work, but also take us through their thoughts on how creating a foolproof digital and tech strategy can help make work more human, and it is a must have KRA for all HR leaders. So now it gives me immense pleasure to welcome our esteemed panelists. First up, we have Nolida Azmi, who's Group Chief People Officer at Axiata Group Berhad and is responsible for driving the group's people strategy in line with Axiata's vision to become the next generation of digital champions. Hi, Nolida. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me, Yasmin.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And secondly, we have with us Shazli Hani, who's Human Resources Director for L'Oreal Malaysia and Singapore, and who has been covering all aspects of strategic HR initiatives and has played a pivotal role in the formation of the Malaysia Singapore cluster for L'Oreal. Hi, Shazli. Thank you so much for joining us. It's a pleasure to have you.
Thank you, Yasmin. Happy to be back.
Yeah, happy to have you. So, on a quick note for our lovely audience, before we begin, this LinkedIn Live discussion is a precursor to our upcoming Future Forward Malaysia chapter, which is happening on the 18th of May at the beautiful Grand Hyatt Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia. It is going to be a day filled with amazing sessions and star speakers, including our very own Nolida and Shazli. So make sure to mark your calendars and join us there. And also for today, please feel free to post your questions or comments for our leaders in the chat section, and we will try and take them as if time permits after the end of the discussion. And now, without further ado, let me start with the first question, and I'd like my panelists to please answer this for me. Nolita, I'd like to hear you first. So, with an extra focus on making work, workforce, and workplace more human amid the tech disruptions, how does keeping the human aspect of work alive make business sense to you now?
Thanks, Yasmin. It's such a pertinent question. Like I posted recently, there's not a
Yeah.
day that go by now. For a while, it was always about digital disruption. And the great thing is suddenly there's almost the humanizing aspect. I felt very validated because, oh my gosh, we are still going to use our brains and our heart. And that is, I think, the essence, how it makes business sense. I think when we incorporate how do we make the workforce and workplace more human, for me, being in the industry of telecommunication, we are quite reflective of the clients that we serve, right? So how do we make it more human is, you know what I'm going to say? Let's quickly embrace it so then we can clearly segregate which part does the disruption and the digitalization add value, and to what extent are we really going to use the human element. And then what we can do from the human capital side then is really resource people with the right temperaments. There are going to people who says, I really don't want to deal with human beings. You want me to bring back to work? That's not me. So it's okay to leave them back. But there are people that say, okay, I want to interact and ideate and generate ideas. And I feel that we're a little bit in the twilight zone here. How much can I use ChatGPT? How much will my companies allow me to use all this generative AI before my risk and compliance says you can't use? So I'm thinking that as we were already on the journey of digitizing all these experiences, why don't we accelerate it so we can give a little bit more of guidance to our people? And it should be approached to me from a very creative perspective that we are embracing the future and let's do it responsibly. That is what I feel that is going to make work a much more sustainable workplace, integrating all these changing elements.
Yeah, I think I agree with you, Oli. I think it's about bringing the best of both the worlds together, right? The best of tech and the best of human minds together, how they can work in collaboration with each other. Because there are, as you said, the segregation is very important. Where does digital make sense and where does human make sense? And overall, bringing it together makes business sense. Shazli, what are your thoughts on that? How, as Oli said, that it was all about digital disruption, and now we're talking about humanizing work suddenly. This whole transition is very interesting, but how does it make business sense?
Yeah, thanks, Yasmin. And Ollie captured a lot of important points. And so, if at the end of the day, when we think about it, we always need to link the strategies back to the business, and the business is always talking about consumers. You need people, and you need that human touch to always be able to connect with that. That's not something that technology is going to be able to replace anytime soon. For me, being in the beauty, well, for us in the beauty industry, we always say that we are actually in the the feelings and the emotion industry, because at the end of the day we sell we sell confidence, we sell beauty, people want to people buy that because they also want to have a feel good sensation that I look good and that I can be my best, and that makes me confident, and you need emotions to connect with your consumers on that level. That is not something that technology can do. So for us, I mean, while we have seen a huge ramp up in in how technology can play a part in the industry, but it is more to complement. If I take a simple example, pandemic taught us, of course, a few quick accelerated lessons, and we were fortunately ahead of the game because we had already experimented with some technology. But for us, it was a challenge. I mean, you cannot go out, you cannot buy makeup, lipstick, you cannot buy hair color, and nobody was interested in wearing lipstick anymore, masks all the time, and why would you? But the key thing is that when we came back into started going back to the workforce, and people were like, yes, I want to, but is it safe to go out? Do I go out in the stores? How do I still see what shade of hair color I want to pick? Is this mascara going to fit for me? And so we had a virtual try on. The technology that we quickly accelerated is you can try on 1,500 different shades of lipstick, all from the comfort of your house. But you need someone, and you need to create an environment for people to be able to develop that kind of technology. They need to know what it is that the consumers wanted. It's not going to be born out of something that you put in as a question to ChatGPT, and they're going to tell you that yes, this is how you're going to be able to make sure that consumers can still connect with your product while being virtual. So it needs to be a blend of both. It cannot be I would say fully replaceable, and you need to create the conditions for employees then to thrive, and that comes back to the human experience that we were talking about.
Can
Absolutely
I
agree.
just jump in here rather
Yeah.
interestingly? Firstly, it's very liberating to hear men talk about lipsticks, and it's not meant to be a sexist statement, because the world talks about inclusivity, and you
Yes.
can have this conversation without getting embarrassed. So that's a little bit of what digital inclusion has done for us, and I think this is when we talk about how does it make business sense. It allows you to experiment, it allows you to be so much more inclusive. And sometimes when you think about it, it's like so many angles are hit beyond just simplification of roles. It's really extending the experience and avoiding judgment. And
Yes,
I
exactly.
use Shazli for you as an example. I hope you didn't mind, because
Not at
it's different generations ago may have blushed, right, to have this conversation. But the reality of it, and beauty is so redefined this day. Is not the perfect beauty, but it's the beauty that's authentic. So I feel that the experience of balancing the human touch with digital experiences is going to be very powerful if humans remain smart and allow them to feel and think and not abdicate being human. And I think that's the key parameter here.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
think that's
I love that, Ollie, and thanks for using me as an example. It's I'm going to use that statement, in all our affairs, because we do serve challenge of attracting men to the industry, and we're like, guys, it's not a taboo. Don't be shy about it. You can try it on at home. You don't need to go to the store and try. Just as an experience and see what it looks like. But yes, there's some things that technology has enabled us to do now that we couldn't.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. I think beauty industry is becoming very, very inclusive. I think men use as many beauty products as women today, and confidently so. That's a great thought. But as you rightly said, I think both of you pointed out that, consumers, when you're talking about consumers, you'll have to have something human to reach out to them. You can't just
Right.
put bots and machines to deal with them, because there's
Mm.
no connect then. You have to have some emotions, as you rightly said.
Yes.
And that's where humanizing work will stay. Yes, as you said, you can't go and ask the chat GPT these questions. You need somebody on the highs who's smart, who can think for you. So I think these are interesting points, right? And I think that's a saving grace for all jobs, if you can segregate that and see these are jobs which do require human intervention, no matter how
Mm.
far we go with technology. So thanks for sharing that. Moving on to the next question, and we're talking about how digital transformation has seen massive acceleration in the past 3-4 years, especially. So in this case, Oli, I'd like to ask you first: how do you think can CHROs create a foolproof digital and tech strategy that will make work more human? We did touch upon it a bit right now, but how else can we do that?
I think what has happened, Yasmin, is that, even before this disruption, when we came back from the pandemic, there's a lot of job recrafting already happening.
Yeah.
So I think we can accelerate this humanizing work by coupling and saying, let's just take in the HR space, right? I wanted to do my job description non-gender bias, so I can put to chat gpt and take it out. But rather than just doing that, how do we elevate it to be inclusive, right? So I think this is where we can put many levers and be very smart, such that we create these tech strategies. Firstly, I do feel, it is our ambition in Axiata to create, I think, Yasmin, under our data citizen program, so that every person of Axiata has a sense of being digitally and analytically savvy. At a recent strategy session, my executive committee said, okay, Ali, I think you have to include in the mandatory prompt engineering mindset, right? So it's really thinking about asking the right questions. But if you go back to the World Economic Forum of skill sets, critical thinking was already there, right? So it's really going back to fundamentals. So when you say how do we put the tech strategies, is I'm overlaying the critical skill sets that we require as an organization, digital or otherwise. And when you think about critical thinking, and I have to do prompt engineering, hey, it's the same thing. So I was so excited. So my guy says, Ollie, don't get excited. We haven't gotten permission to use this. I said, but we've gotten permission to do critical thinking way back, my friends. So I think that's really humanizing and bringing conversations in every thought leadership that we have, everything that we do in human capital, is to think, has my job been recrafted and elevated for the future? What
Hmm.
angle can I include digital? What angle I must refrain? If I'm doing succession management, I can't let algorithm will only give you so much. By the end of it is the experience that you have. Do you fit the culture? Some elements can never be coded. And I think that's where we have to have the courage to say, okay, everybody, 80% can be coded. The 20% accounts for the 100% delivery. A little bit
Yes.
of that, Lenny, I think for us in the people space, Shazli, right? Is like, oh, this Matt CHRO, but never mind, we shall do in the future. My thoughts, Yasmin.
Oops, I think Yasmin is frozen.
So I think you just chat lah, Shazli.
So we'll take over, Ali. we'll take over the forum and comment it. No, but it was quite interesting because I was just reading a couple of weeks back about prompt engineering, and exactly the same thing, that, with the vastness of AI and amid the concerns, I mean, Elon Musk and the group have signed kind of an agreement saying that, look, we should kind of take a look at how quickly is it evolving, and whether it's evolving in a safe, at a safe speed. But at the same time, you also need people who are able to utilize these tools and the resources of what AI is all about. I mean, for us, the one interesting thing I was looking at is that, while people are worried that, oh, replacement of jobs and, will this kind of automation taken away. But, the biggest number of jobs that we have added is actually in the digital and the data space, because, that is, I would say, the key thing we realize is that people are still very afraid of the vastness of data and digital. And how are we then preparing them to actually, be savvy enough to be comfortable, to be able to use this to their advantage? So now across the region, we have said that, look, companies, or where our markets are big enough, we are adding a chief data analytics role together with chief digital roles, because we need to embed it within the company. We need to have it within the business functions and the support functions as well, to see how we drive decision making through data. And that's always going to be how should I say, a key thing, whether, depending on, regardless of how advanced we get through with, our tools, our AI, our chatbots. At the end of the day, it is us driving, or guiding the tools to pick up on what is the set of data that is relevant, right? We were doing, to emphasize how much focus we were putting in it on a regional level. So all the country directors in, all our 16 markets in the region went through a data for decision makers kind of training. And, one of the things that they quite rightly pointed out is that if you feed the wrong data into the tool, you are always going to get a wrong analysis anyway, and your strategy is then forever going to be wrong, because you have gotten the wrong parameters to start with. They gave us an example, of course, anonymous, on a brand that was using search engine optimization to kind of have their search results at the top, and then paying Google, of course, paid ad search so that their keywords appear. And the one thing that they said was like, wow, after you paid for this, you started seeing, let's say something like 1,000% increase in the traffic. But what, the analysis didn't reveal was that they were already the number one hit search anyway. So, by just focusing on that data post having paid for the ad search and making it seem like you've had such a dramatic increase, but then, you come to the realization that had you not done anything, you would have been getting the same traffic. So you need the people to do that analysis, to use the tools and intuitively pick up when it is wrong, because that's how, we will be able to, kind of not only humanize the experience, make it relevant back to our strategies, and you still need people to do that. So yes, sorry, Yasmin, we decided to commandeer the session while you dropped off, and Oli and I were having a nice side chat.
Yeah, no, no, please go ahead, because while we're talking about digital disruption, there's a tech disruption at my place and my power went off. So
Yes.
sorry about that. Yeah, but I'm back trying to use all the torch lights I can and use my phone internet, but I hope but yeah, thanks. I think I did catch on to what you were saying, and I do agree that yes, the critical skills will remain there. Which, while some tasks can be taken over by technology, the critical skills, the intuitive skills, the human skills, and then how can they kind of, merge with the technical skills to create those kind of roles. And as job roles get recrafted, job skills get redefined. This is how the combination will go move forward. Also, so thanks, Oli. Thanks, Shazli, for sharing that. Moving on to another very pertinent question. We talk so much about employee experience, and in order to have better EX, organization must listen to and understand the needs of their workforce. How do you think an employers, in partnership with the CHROs, especially, align these expectations, keep an engaged workforce, keep them happy, purposeful, and motivated? Ollie, you can go first, please.
Sure. It's very interesting. We just had a session just now. It says, what matters to you? So we had the question, what matters to you? What would you like to see more or less? And what do you do for the employee experience? There were much more human-centric and human-dependent asks than it was on digital training and everything else. For us, it's been a challenge getting people back to the office, because you're used to it. You produce work. Is it a transactional delivery? So I think people are missing that experience of engagement. So when you ask, how can we understand, how do we make the employee experience, they are asking much opportunities that are curated that they can engage with colleagues in the office, but yet give them the flexibility. Like, it's human nature. You tell your kids, okay, don't cross the street. They'll just cross the street to just mess your brains up, right? I think it's quite similar in the workplace. You says come back to work 5 days a week. They're going to say, look, I was productive at when I was fully remote, right? But the ideation and the creation may not be the same. So I think how we can partner together is we must ask our people again, what do they want? Last year's ES don't count anymore. You almost have to ask daily, you know. And as the talent landscape changes to Zenders and millennials, and there's much more conversation now about Zenders, like who says we're not motivated? We just have a purpose. So then, as we are looking at our values and branding, I says, are we using words when we define purpose that the Zenders relate to? Or are we using such corporate words that you have to open a dictionary? And therefore, the relativity and the resonance is not emotive enough. So when I feel that the partnership is, I think we have to constantly have people beyond HR, beyond the senior leadership that are hearing what the people on the ground are saying, have the courage to pass it on and says, hey, Ollie, I really want to go to the gym at 5 o'clock, but you're closing it at 4 o'clock. Some things are even quite basic. I feel Yasmin and Shazli, I feel that we are at a point of inflection in redefining employee experience. And the only way we can do this is to just have conversations and recalibrate. And I do believe most of the solutions are not expensive. We just have to take the courage and act now and don't deliberate. And sometimes we big corporate organizations have to get, I don't know, 10 levels of approvals. By that time, the experience is dead. Do you know what I mean? Let's not go to market, go to our people quickly.
That's a great point, I think. I think, as you said, listening regularly, recalibrating regularly, reaching out to your people as quickly as you can with those kind of experiences. That's what it matters today, because every day is so different for them. Their expectations are changing. They're looking for more meaning, more purpose, maybe different things from each of their own personal lives. So I think that kind of a listening mechanism has to be put into place. Shazli, what are your thoughts on that? How can we build that partnership and have a more, beautifully happy workplace?
Yeah, thanks, Yasmin. It was interesting to hear Oli saying, when they had the session with the employees on, what matters most. And I think that's always been the cornerstone of, how we try to engage employees as well, because, you have so many different generations in the group. For us, it is, the challenge is a bit different. We're about 70% millennial, Gen Z almost. So, it's a very young workforce. And keeping them engaged is not easy. Like, Ollie said, you tell them don't cross the road, they're going to cross it anyway. And you tell them don't do this, they're still going to do it. So how do we find it engaging and motivating? And we have, of course, the same challenges as well. We have work from home, but I think what we then realize is that people were still craving that, connection, and you can't replace that, right? So yes, but it's about balance. Have your work from home, come to the office, but then when they're at the office, what are they looking for, right? And so what kind of engagement points, what is it that matters? So for us, I mean, we do engagement surveys every year, but when we did the merger of the Malaysia and the Singapore business last year, we said, okay, it's important to continue making sure that the employee voice is the primary thing that we will focus on. So we did mini pulse surveys every month, just to see, okay, look, what is on the ground, making sure that we're hearing the feedback. And, the one thing, there was two things immediately came, to be the most prominent. One was, of course, a huge amount of work. Like Ollie was saying, 18 levels of approval. We said we needed to cut that down. Too many meetings that were going on, and creating a space for recognition. So that helped us craft our strategy, because we said, okay, look, this cluster that we are creating is, yes, it's good for the business. We also want to show you guys that it's good for the employees as well. So, we set a target. We said, look, what we want to do in the spirit of simplifying and simplicity is that we will save everybody 1 day of work every month through all the different initiatives that we're going to do. Either we're going to cut down on meetings, we're going to reduce time, we're also going to create space for you to recharge. We're going to have wellness programs as well, but basically unlocking a lot of areas, or trying to create efficiencies. And then you start to see, of course, the employees be a lot more engaged. They start to connect with the purpose of what it is that you're doing. So, it's you of course, and I won't say the process of getting there was easy. In our culture, it's sometimes people don't always want to say what they mean. Sometimes there's multiple layers. They're a bit shy and don't want to be that forthcoming. So, but you can't take away the importance of that. So you need to do your best. You need to push hard, try and listen, and ultimately, then we that's what helped us craft this strategy of getting through to it. And it was a combination of trying to use as much tech as possible to bring them back,
Yeah.
and enable them. So yes, listening to an employees cannot understate enough.
Yeah, absolutely. Have your ears to the ground always. I think that's the whole idea. You can't think from the top and think that what what thought leaders are talking about or what you think might work will work unless it is actually coming from bottom up. I feel. I think that's the way to go about it. So thanks, Shazli. Thanks, Oli, for sharing that. Time for the final question now. As a CHRO, Oli, what will be your immediate priorities when it comes to humanizing work for a more sustainable future?
This is going to sound quite converse. I want us to take the demon called Chat GPT, understand it, so people won't be scared of it. Do you know what I mean? Because
I
the
know.
fear of the unknown is like, how much of, especially when they say, oh, HR, there are still some people, unfortunately, who think HR is personnel, right? So I'm like, hello, excuse me. There is quite a value added, I mean, in the larger ecosystem, right? So, and then we function not only in the organization, our people are subjected to partners in the community, the families, right? So, and sometimes you may not feel as important, right? So, what I want to do is, and we're quite lucky, next month we have what we call the digital month. So, we're going to conquer this beast, we're going to try and understand. And then I want people to feel comfortable. Okay, this is the extent that it makes my work simpler. Then I'm going to try and legitimize it within the work frame instead of somebody have to use your personal computer to do your chat GPT and get vision or whatever it is, right? And then infuse it in the way that you work. And I think once we know the dimensions, then we know the extent of the humanization that will remain. I think right now is like, okay, well, somebody who process payroll, will he or she be out of the job? That was actually not a chat GPT discussion or generative AI. This was in the era of outsourcing. It's not in the era. So I think we're mixing concepts sometimes and we're mixing the evolution. So I think what we're talking about now is, can the new disruption technology replace thinking and feeling? It can't. And it should be those different from outsourcing or in some aspect to me, the first generation of digitalization. So for me, I'm gonna say, what's my first strategy? I really want to understand this beast. I want to know how it impacts the world that we operate in so that we can create meaningful work and give people that sense of security. I think job security right now is a big concern.
Yes.
And we have multiple concerns, and I would love to be able to say, okay, at least for this family of jobs beyond your data scientists, we are still needed as human beings.
Mm.
Absolutely. Very beautifully said, Oli. I totally agree with you. Yes, we call it the beast. It's the biggest looming threat. Everyone's scared. Everybody's saying Chat GPT will take away our jobs. But I think it's all about, as you said, understand it better and how can it be your ally and not a threat to you. That's how we
Mm.
need to look at it. Shazli, what are your top priorities going forward?
Yeah, when you dropped off for a while, Yasmin, we were talking about how we continue to prioritize data and digital, and how there's still such a kind of a stigma as well as a fear about it because people don't fully understand it, right? And
Mm.
they think it's something that's so unattainable or so vast that it's going to be difficult to understand. So for us, really, it's the next step is unpacking it and putting it into bite size, getting people familiar with it, slowly building up the familiarity. And one, we put in a data and analytics officer in all the countries. We've also mandated that everybody goes through a quick online e-learning about data and about AI, so that there is some basic familiarity about how do you do that. And then the next step is to see how we embed data and decision making into all the functions, because until then, people don't, they will say yes, data is important, I need it to do my work, but they probably don't fully understand just how much how really how important it is. and the kind of the size of the potential that lies behind it until they fully harness it. So for us, it's really getting them comfortable with that. And, we have been adding a lot of roles we have every year, something we call the Digital Acceleration Summit, does. And we were talking about the new roles that we are, going to be driving for the future. And most of it is coming on online platforms, on digital content, on how we're going to use data for decision making, but also at the same time, how we are training our existing employees to be familiar with these kind of topics as well. So that's going to be our immediate priorities, I would say. How do we drive that? I will admit, and be very transparent. We are not there yet. Here in,
Yeah.
in Malaysia, but that's the ambition, and that's what's going to keep me up at night.
And that is
Yasmin,
the
I'd
future.
like to make, Yasmin, I'd like to make a plug for the HR leaders here in Malaysia. So
Yes.
tomorrow we're having this Hari Raya thing, right? But the intellectual conversation is going to be about this AI and ChatGPT and Copilot and everything else. So I don't know whether we're going to be served real food, but what I feel very excited is collectively as a profession, we want
Yes.
to raise the bar collectively. So
Mm.
whilst we
Lovely.
compete in the place as companies, but the human capital practitioners, we really want
Yeah.
to bring collective learning and really raise the bar. And I think that itself is a game changer beyond just at an organization level.
Great. Absolutely.
Yeah,
Thanks for
I
sharing
agree.
that, Oli. Yes. So I think that was all the time we had for this session. But what I thought was most beautifully said by both our leaders here today is that technology, digital disruption are going to be mainstay. We cannot deny that. Chat GPT is disrupting us. Data is very important. Everything is important. But beneath all of this, human skills, having that human aspect to work, connecting humanly with your people, your consumers, your own employees, that's going to be very core to how businesses function and succeed in the future. And it's beautiful to see how leaders understand that, realize that, and they're working towards bringing together technology and people on the same platform, putting together a collaboration, a partnership that can work for the benefit of the business. So I think that was a great conversation. Thank you so much, Oli and Shazli. Those were some truly great insights, and we cannot wait to hear from the both of you on the 18th of May to know more about humanizing work for a sustainable future. So thank you once again for joining us.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Yasmin.
Yasmin, and
Thank
thank
you,
you, Ali.
Hesha. Take care.
Thank you so
Hey,
much.
good talking to you,
See you
Shazli. Bye
soon.
bye.
Thank
Likewise,
you.
Ali. See
So
you soon. Bye bye.
great. With that, ladies and gentlemen, we come to the end of this interesting LinkedIn Live session. I'm sure you all must have enjoyed hearing our leaders and taken away some key learnings from today's discussion. Do follow our hashtag ET Future Forward Southeast Asia to keep yourself updated with what's cooking for the upcoming Future Forward Malaysia chapter, which is happening next week. And do reach out to us if you wish to join us there and meet and hear from our star speakers live. The link with more details has been pasted in the comments section for your quick reference. Thank you once again for joining us. Have a great day ahead. Take care and bye bye.